Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Monday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day, I guess. Now, I recall doing some pre-recording of Star Wars games, but I think that may have been a year ago. So if there's nothing airing on my channel right about now, Star Wars related, that's the reason. I don't have a ton of Star Wars games left, and I recall that the last time I did play Star Wars games, it was pretty much just spotlighting a whole bunch of really old games that either were not very relevant or just not very playable uh, in their current form. There's a whole bunch of TIE Fighter versus uh, whatever uh, TIE Fighter games that like don't have really good controller support or anything like that. So yeah, the Lego Star Wars game that is supposed to be all the Skywalker Saga episode 1 through episode 9 is in the works. So there's something there that will give me something to play. And while I don't want to play Battlefront, the single player Star Wars game that came out about a year ago uh, is out. So if I got that game, maybe I could play it next year and actually play an entire Star Wars game from the beginning to the end. But I think best case scenario, there will be some years where you simply don't do any Star Wars content, and some years where you do, and maybe with the way I've been pre-recording and just having one game per month, effectively, there's not a lot of room anyways to set an entire month of May focused solely on playing Star Wars games. There's something weird about this deck in this workshop that we want to do, in the fact that it has 40 of 60 cards. And there's a companion in this deck. Doesn't seem like that works. Yeah, this deck also has 40 of 60 cards, so have they made some kind of glitch here where these are 40 card decks and the deck displayer specifically is only expecting 60 now? Yeah, again, 40 of 60 cards, unless I'm just completely misreading that. Let's see, if we were to click this, 16 plus 5 plus another 10 would be 31, plus 9 creatures is 40. Yeah, weird. But clearly some of these workshop decks are specifically designed to highlight cards, so the idea of removing cards that they don't want to highlight makes sense. But these have been fairly awful. Let's see, nothing here is mentioning 40 cards. Like, these are kind of fairly awful things. I assume cycling means you're supposed to cycle, mutate means you're supposed to mutate, and spells means you're supposed to play spells. In an effort to try and save some time, I didn't actually look at all of the cards while I was talking there. I finished the Turing test, and it's not a great game. Like, the story is not as good as the story that was in QUBE2, and I'd maybe only say it's slightly better than the story that was added on after the fact in QUBE1, because since they added a story to Cube 1, there was like no decision point So you just had somebody talking to you the whole time, and you weren't really given any choice as to what you really were going to do anyways. So yeah, that made a different experience for sure. Okay. Cycle 2, which then lets me play this. Target creature fights target creature you don't control. I mean, I could fight this guy with this guy, but I don't see a reason to do that. But yeah, at the end of the day, the Turing test is some straightforward puzzles with no red herring elements really in the puzzles at all. Only in the optional puzzles are you even doing something that is really that unique or different from what you would expect you would have to do. The main puzzles all do rotate around you manipulating the items the way they were intended to be manipulated. A great example of that is there's an optional puzzle where you have a box that these boxes are energy sources that you would plug into outlets to power doors. In an optional puzzle, instead of powering a door with the box, you put it under a sliding grater door and just stop it from closing, which is like a cool idea. But let's see, do we want trample or menace? I'll go with menace on this case. But yeah, the Turing test's big choice is either you trust the computer AI Tom, that who technically is the character you're playing as the whole game, and believe what he says at least well enough, and you believe that he's following orders from the ISA, and if you find some secrets and start the game a second time, you actually see that he's kind of been authorized and following orders even from the captain. Or you trust the, for lack of a better description, mutinous humans in the game. And if you trust the mutinous humans in the game, then you get one ending, and if you trust Tom, you get a different ending, and they both turn into the exact same storyline. When everything is said and done, because there's no difference. It just goes to a direct cutscene after that point. Well, no cutscenes in the game at all, actually. It goes to direct credits at that point. There are a couple in-game cutscenes in the Turing test, but that's about it. Both the writing is just so awful and so straightforward. It feels exactly like the puzzles that are just straightforward. Like, you will have a key, you'll have a door in front of you. Your goal will be to get that key into the lock to unlock the door in front of you. That is the entirety of the Turing test. And they give you 70 puzzles, which is nice, but it does definitely feel like Square Enix simply ran out of patience and funding and pushed the game out unfinished. That would be my guess, at least, as far as what they did, because not a lot else makes sense. killed my guy. Which means I guess I can attack with these guys. No. Target attacking or blocking creature. Alright. So let's save this for this guy. And so after playing the Turing test, there's not a lot more to say about it really. I really struggled to have anything to say about it at the end. I started playing Uru Complete Chronicles, which is the failed attempt by Cyan that took them like 10 years to actually get it really out. To make a Myst MMO, for lack of a better term, although that really kind of ruins the concept of Myst, and there's a lot that Uru does that kind of ruins the concept of Myst, and it probably is better to simply assume that Uru is just not canonical. A few things you're immediately shown is that Uru establishes that the city of Dunny is actually buried under the Nevada desert in the United States in the real world. Uru takes place, I think, a couple hundred years ago, 100 years after the events of what I would only assume is all the Myst main series, Myst 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which Riven is Myst 2, but whatever, that's not really hiding hair. So it takes place after that. A bunch of humans find Dunny, they form the Dunny Reconstruction Council, or Renovation Council, or something like that. And so then you run around a bunch of new lands that are somewhat repaired, but not really. It is just a bunch of unfinished levels that then on occasion you will run into a you'll run into a like barrier or a very modern time traffic cone, something that just says you can't go this way because it's too dangerous. So that really ruins the things, because every world in Myst and Riven have been their own unique universes with their own unique histories and feeling, and that just isn't exactly what you get. You lose that uniqueness because of modern humans being there trying to rebuild Deny for not a particularly great reason. Like it seems like they're just getting magically called there, probably by the daughter of Atris. So which also kind of makes the daughter of Atris, if it's supposed to be like 100 years after it makes her potentially very, very old at this point, like too old to still be alive if she had a normal lifespan, which we don't really know if that's true for any of the Atris family. We don't know a lot about them, and we were more than happy to not know a lot about those characters, because we just wanted the mystery. You want that mystery box. I hate to use that comparison, because the mystery box concept is just a horrible excuse for making terrible movies and TV at this point. But we didn't really need every single thing explained that about the Myst universe and Riven. And still get tons of stuff explained if you read the books and read all the notes and things, but they don't. It doesn't need to be related to the real world, because Uru is trying to be this weird online collaboration puzzle game, which would have never really worked because somebody would have figured out all the solutions fairly quickly. There are some things that seem like they really are designed to only be solvable if there was a group chat and several people were standing in several different places. But then that ruins the game for anybody that wants to play single player or just as a small group. The concept is just super flawed, and Uru had its cult following, and eventually they released the source code, and you can still try to make Uru online servers, but I don't think anybody has ever managed to make any good extra content that is worth mentioning or reporting on. It just takes a lot of work to make a Myst game, where World of Warcraft, in comparison, because that's really what they were trying to be, Cyan had some small potential that they might become the next EA or Ubisoft, but Uru was still being funded and published by Ubisoft, and Ubisoft did the one thing to probably save Uru, in that they forced, or they kindly requested, as Wikipedia said, that they break Uru into a single player element, a single player game, and an online game. And the online game then was on GameTap for like a year, and then it was shut down again. So the Complete Chronicles kind of has most of the content from the online stuff without any people. So there's giant lobbies where you first spawn in the game is just this giant empty area that almost certainly was there just so people who didn't know how to play the game would have to run around one giant area and run into a bunch of people. But it's just emptiness, complete emptiness. There's so far one actual NPC character at the very beginning of the game I've run into, and then a bunch of simply then a hologram of Atrus's daughter grown up, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so we have to remember, what do we want to mutate? I think what we want to do is probably start with something simple. So is there any reason for a human druid to be the first thing we do? No. I think this is good because this has trample. We put this on the field. Hope it survives. Then we mutate this on top of him. Then we've got a 3/4 with trample. So the other problems in the first couple hours that I played, and I'm playing like hour 15-minute episodes of Uru because I want to just get through it fairly quickly, and the entire game is just wandering around. You really don't have an inventory for anything. Like, unlike the other Myst games, you don't really have the capability to pick up many books and use linking books. You do find at the very beginning of the game that a linking book to a unique little instanced lobby world that is kind of your central hub of where you would teleport to different levels, because there was 2 bits of DLC added later, and then there's different worlds in the main game. And then it looks like there's also a these are just humans. put this on the field and this on the field. If I could get this on the field, that would be great. So yeah, it kind of violates the way the linking books have worked in the past, because when you touch the linking book in the past in Myths games, the linking book would just fall to the ground. It would not teleport with you. After doing the first little tutorial section, you put a linking book to your hub world on your belt, and then you touch it, and then it just teleports you and the linking book with you, and that linking book stays with you forever, I guess until you die. And you can fall to your death or get stuck in walls in this game, because it is a third person game that has a first person mode that is kind of a mess. I also managed to run into a visual glitch and a crash in the first hour of gameplay. It'd be really hard to argue to remake Uru instead of Cyan just making Firmament, but there's a lot of overlapping feeling of ambition between Uru and the 10 years that they attempted to make that in Firmament, because Firmament, unlike Abduction, really is gonna, I think, try to be more than just a standard walk around and play with some puzzle elements, and then once you've solved all the little puzzles in the world, you've beaten the game. Because that's kind of what Abduction was, that's kind of what Myst was, and in all fairness, they did modernize quite a lot going from the original Myst game to Abduction, but Firmament needs to pretty much do the exact same thing. There's major improvements that Firmament needs to be. It needs to feel like an action puzzle game and not close to a Myst game at all. But yeah, since Uru is supposed to be a game with multiple people, none of the books can be picked up, so they're all locked down. And there's a wrist brand called a Key, K-I, that you're supposed to have, and I still have yet to even find it 2 hours into playing the game. And the key seems to be some kind of way that they've implemented to unlock the ability to link to places, or just automatically link to places. There's a whole new woven linking book structures where you can click checkpoints, and then from the linking books you can go to those checkpoints, which then violates another thing that had been established in the Myth series, in the idea that there was literally only one linking position per every linking book. If you wanted to go to a different place in the same age, you would have to have a different linking book, and all the pages theoretically behind the front page that shows the image, even though it's not directly shown, were supposed to be written kind of magical code, kind of computer code, that either, depending on how you take the story, either meant that you are linking to those ages or creating those ages. And I could never get it straight whether they thought they were creating those ages, Atros thought he was creating the ages, or whether he was linking to the ages. Or maybe the ages somewhat existed, but they could be drastically changed. It's questionable. When you play Myth 3 Exile, which was made by third-party people, those ages in particular feel very much like they were created from whole cloth from nothing, but it's not still even it's not certain. I think that's even guaranteed to be the case, because it could be that the linking books linked to an age, and then Atris used some other means of persuasion to create the worlds, build the mechanics, and change how the entire mechanisms of the world work. That is yet another example of just how a lot of stuff in Myst doesn't get fully explained or answered. It's not dumbed down. Honestly, I wouldn't really waste my time remaking Uru. I think what you do is you try for a remake of the entire Myst series. There are 5 games there, so what you could do is combine those 5 games into a first trilogy, which probably isn't too hard. Like, if you take, say, I mean, you almost can't touch Myst and Riven, so you probably would just take Myst 3, Myst 4, and Myst 5 and merge that into one game. Call that the first trilogy, with very little change for the first 2 games. Then you start a second trilogy of games using Atris's daughter, now grown up, as like a companion character. That way she can, you could visit ages that she doesn't know anything about, but she would give you insight and give you helps. At the very least, she could be a character that is just a hint system that would walk and look at things and just be interested and solve the loneliness problem that Myst as a series has always kind of had. That would be, I think, appreciated. So tap a creature. That might save me for a little bit longer. I need to draw 3 more cards before this summons, though. And I think what you would probably want to do is take, for what I've seen, a lot of which of Uru I don't remember from the first time I played it. I think you would want to take a lot of the big open empty area and boil it down to the important parts. Make a smaller area, make a shorter experience. And just kind of be done with that. Like, I know it's obvious even in the first tutorial section when they're showing you this giant desert with a like volcano in the middle of it that you can't go inside of or look at, that they want to show you these great, amazing 3D skyboxes, but the graphics by modern standards look terrible. So it doesn't even work well. Draw a card, discard a card. Could I have been doing this the whole time? I guess I could have. But yeah, I think you probably would take the puzzles that actually feel like Myst puzzles, some of which probably don't feel too much like Myst puzzles from Uru Complete Chronicles, and then start a new trilogy based on that. you definitely would want the character to have an inventory. I like the idea of finding more linking books and having kind of a way to teleport to many more and more places as you go. That is a unique element of the Myst series. But I think if you're going to set into the future, even in '93 when Uru came out, kind of digitalizing that in a way makes a lot more sense. Like if it was straight up, you had a cell phone and all you had to do is take this cell phone like device and scan all the linking books, and then you could just pick where you want to go, and then it would give you an overworld map. There's no overworld map in Uru. If it lets you take screenshots, you can take screenshots theoretically in the game by pressing F5. It seems like it's not saving it though. It seems like those screenshots are getting at best placed in some folder somewhere that I have no idea where to. There's like no in-game menu to see those screenshots or bring them up. So that's kind of useless. I could have always done that. I could have always hit print screen and then just opened up MS Paint and pasted the image of the screenshot. So yeah, a modern electronic device, if you're going to set the Myst ages in a modern universe, you try to play up the contrast. If you're going to bring normal everyday humans to the world of the Myst ages, you have the humans be confused but capable and understanding their own technology. Compared that to Atreus's daughter, who would be confused by the modern world and their technology, and you could even maybe have some sections, instead of having a co-op assistant partner, that maybe it's not actually co-op in the sense that somebody else can play with you, because that doesn't really add much value for a puzzle game. Because if you are going to have people, you can do basic couch co-op anyways and just have people tell you what to do in most puzzle games. But you could have a nice little split where at some points you play as Atreus's daughter and she's in like a modern office building or something like that, and she's having to solve things that would puzzle her, but wouldn't really be much of a issue. Like, it would be a very funny scene if Atreus's daughter walked into an office, saw an elevator, saw all the buttons, couldn't read any of the numbers on the elevator because she only reads the Riven numbering system or the Dunny numbering system. So she's struggling to just get an elevator that works perfectly fine to do the thing that she wants to have happen because of her lack of understanding. Or her having to try to get from, like, through a subway system in New York. Yeah, you set this in New York, where with Atreus's daughter, where she can't figure out how to get through the subway systems. She can't possibly walk down all the streets. She sees like crosswalks and sees buttons, and she's just like constantly pressing buttons. That would be a funny counter action to what you typically, what a player typically does, because they're in a different world. And see, that probably would be best suited as a cutscene in this fictional, like, new trilogy of Myst games. And maybe you don't even set it as Atreus's daughter, maybe you set it as Atreus's grandson or great-grandson or granddaughter. It doesn't matter the gender, but the point is you get it only slightly connected to Atreus, and then you spend the most of the game going to just new ages. You could even, if you're going to make a new series like this, I'm not 100% sure if it really makes sense to even have it in the Myst series. If anything, What does this say? I have to sacrifice the creature. Darn it. I thought, wait, why did that spell not work? Exile creature with power 4 or greater. That should have worked. That is annoying. It's not hexproof. Did he play a counter spell? First strike. I don't know why this guy didn't get exiled. He totally should have been exiled. And he wasn't. Man, that sucks. It really, really sucks when you're playing a game like Magic and either you just don't understand what happened, or in this case, I think it just didn't work the way it should. I think it's just buggy. Yeah, but as Uru stands, you are wandering around, you're trying to touch 7 pieces of cloth in every world, and that's pretty much your only real goal, is that there are 7 hidden flags effectively that you're supposed to touch, and you have to solve puzzles to get to those hidden flags, of course, and you have to explore the worlds. The worlds are empty, huge, and just full of puzzles. And there are collectible clothing items, which, because they wanted it to be like an MMO like World of Warcraft, you can spend, and I did spend about 20 minutes at the beginning of the game creating your character, naming your character. They show you your character's name in the Dunny language, but then you only see the back of that character's head, and the clothing and outfits that you get to choose from at the beginning don't really matter, because at the end of the day you're going to pick up a bunch of new outfits, and those new outfits are going to change as soon as you pick up an outfit and an item. Whenever it enters the battlefield, give a menace counter you have to a non-human creature. Okay. I go first strike on that. Yeah. Honestly, the idea of having like a scanner like PDA to scan linking books is probably not too different from what they offer. The main problem is that there isn't just like a top-down map and an interface to take screenshots and get notes. There are some notes, but if you're going to make Uru nowadays, it would be full of a lot more audio notes or video notes. It probably would feel a little bit more like Control, where you're wandering around a weird area. And I wouldn't even be surprised if you were going to make an Uru today if they did abandon the non-violent idea, the slow puzzle idea, and instead did throw in some kind of creatures to fight. Guess we can sacrifice that. That probably doesn't matter. Although I don't know if that secondary gameplay mechanic of fighting creatures in a Myst game really adds anything at all. If anything, I would imagine you'd be better off just having more collectibles being added. Or you throw even, as terrible as the idea may be, you throw in a survival mechanic into the game. That way you will have a larger reason to search for items. Like, yeah, if you had to find food and water every now and then, just to maintain your stamina, that would be interesting, but definitely hard to integrate into a puzzle game. The main issue with Myst is that it has always been a game where you just kind of wander around confused, or you have a walkthrough in front of you. And in modern times with the internet, most people are going to have a walkthrough in front of them. So it becomes a different kind of sell. Yeah, I'm just going to lose regardless. You're just getting nowhere today. And the funny thing is, since we are still early in the month, as soon as I could get away from playing this stupid workshop, I think we would do fairly well. But these workshops only last a couple days, so I don't really have time to I really don't have the opportunity just to skip it or try to play it off screen. Yeah. So, yeah, as I play Uru, fingers are getting ever more crossed that Firmament is good and it can start perhaps a whole new series. One of the things that I think Uru and the Myst series in general does that's more interesting is it isn't just taking it to the default sci-fi space realm as far as weird environments usually come from. That is one of the problems I think with the Turing test, is that it would have it just by default is choosing to be set on Titan's moon Europa, when the same story could have been told in the past, and that would have been more interesting if there was an artificial intelligence computer developed like 200 years in the past and you were actually dealing with Alan Turing developing the Turing test. That would put a different visual aspect to it, but they didn't want to do that, obviously, because the Turing test is just full of Unreal Engine. I believe it was Unreal Engine asset flips. So, well, asset flip is probably not the best descriptor, but I think it probably is the most accurate. Why can I not mutate that? Because it's a human. Alright. That sucks. But yeah. In a weird way, the Turing test is the exact opposite in ambition to Uru Complete Chronicles. Every 3D model I imagine in Uru was custom made for the most part. I bet the traffic cones and the volleyballs may have been pre-pot 3D models, and this was early first generation like 3D modeling too, so take that as a bigger accomplishment. But yeah, they wanted to make a ton of stuff to catch people's attention, whereas the Turing test, it's just like, hey, let's get some sci-fi gun let's get a sci-fi space suit so we don't have to animate hands or people's faces. Let's get a sci-fi walls in a sci-fi space station. Let's get sci-fi lighting. Like almost everything in the game feels like it could have easily been made for a different game. Well, I guess it doesn't stop me from just playing this. I don't know why I'm being so terrible. Or so picky here. I should have played that first. I'm trying to do damage. And I'm not really accomplishing it. So I should just quit attacking. We actually don't have a ton of news, but I don't know why I would even bother to curse myself by saying that. Alright, Slick Deals don't show again. I don't know why the Slick Deals little plugin started working. Maybe I didn't have it installed before. Let's see. Turn target human creature from your graveyard to your hand. Do we have a human creature in the graveyard? Not yet. Target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. Ooh. That looks interesting. See if they can counter that. So yeah, I need to start uploading more videos, and I definitely need to schedule more videos. But while I'm playing Uru, it doesn't have a 16:9 ratio, so it messes up my monitor quite a bit. It makes it a 4:3 ratio, so the dual monitors don't quite work, and they were theoretically working on a patch to introduce 16:9 ratios, and they gave up on that, or put it on the back burner at least, to focus on Firmament, which is the right thing to do. Like, Cyan as a company, it may have one of the Miller brothers technically in charge, but he's basically just a boss at this point. It is going to be the new generation of people that are going to see. It is going to be the new generation of people that are going to have to create a new series and make a different game. And you even saw in some of Abduction's design where they specifically are not trying to have incredibly cryptic, confusing puzzles in Abduction. It was the Miller person in charge, the boss, that insisted on the one really complicated puzzle in the entire game, and he only got it in as a side Easter egg puzzle, not as something that people really need to spend a lot of time with or be interested in. There's like this computer that you can manipulate a whole bunch of buttons, like way too many buttons, and in the end the computer itself is just being used as a counterweight for a platform, a group of stairs, which, yeah, that is a way to fix issue, certainly, that has existed in the past. Where Myst games have specifically been just really complicated for no reason. So Firmament will be the first release in the hopefully beginning of a whole new generation of people at Cyan making puzzle games, but it very well may not succeed, certainly. That kind of is what Double Fine hoped to be, but I think part of the problem, and this is also the risk for Cyan, is that the person in charge of Double Fine, Tim Schafer, I think still just doesn't lead the ship well enough for the ambitious game developers that at one time worked there and very possibly at this point have left working there. Like, it doesn't matter how ambitious a lot of these game developers, these young game developers might be, if at the end of the day they are going to they're going to simply never be able to get a game out the door. I would say that is also true for Valve's own issues, in the sense that Valve is kind of notorious, or known at least, for hiring the creators of Vernacular Drop out of college, Digipen, and they made Portal 1. But I feel like anybody that's actually worked on Portal 1 from Digipen maybe worked on Portal 2, and now they're probably just doing some kind of back-end work for the Steam storefront, doing perhaps even customer service, just work that's not artistic or worthy of their young ambition and their new vision. Maybe, just maybe, they got to work on Half-Life Alyx and see that game came out, but I'm not really sure. And I definitely know at least a couple of people went on to do other things at relative levels of success. And we kind of do run into a problem with new game developers in general, in the sense that they are kind of never the next big thing. It's not like sports. And I think that's part of the problem too, is that it probably should be more like a sports experience. Oh, this one has all its abilities removed. Why do I keep doing that then? I'm dumb. That's why. Yeah, that was not helpful. This guy's got double strike, so he'll take me out. Well, it looks like we might actually win. Yeah, even if you look back, the long list of people that were at one time the young and up and comers failed kind of miserably at some point to maintain that they were young and up and coming, or they failed to succeed. Let's see. Target creature, a planeswalker. Let's see. This. And then go ahead and reveal a card we already revealed. Okay. Now this one has trample. Put this on the field. I would have won a while ago if I hadn't lost all these abilities. Yeah, when you think about like Cliff Blazinski, he's a great example. He made the Gears of War series, or at least he was shown as the figurehead that helped make the Gears of War series, and he wants nothing more whatsoever to do with video games. Finally we win. That got me 500 gold, but that was a hassle. I mean, you just can't put it any other way. Let's look to see if we have any new cards. I don't think I played over the weekend at all. There. Now I have a new card. That's sucked. Let's see. It does seem like we don't have a indication when these drafts are going to end. So on Wednesday, the premium draft or the quick draft are going to be our options. Traditional draft is not an option. This is a bot draft. Now, I'm not sure, I don't just enjoy the idea of a bot draft better than a premium draft or premier draft. I guess that's premier draft. Alright, standard ranked. Let's start playing. We need to attack a bunch of creatures. We need to play red and white cards, which we won't be able to do with this deck, so just go back to the red test deck and try that. Yeah. Well, I've meandered and rambled long enough. Speaking of rambling, and apologies if that's insulting, someone put a comment on, I believe, one of my Skyrim videos. I can't even really tell. And it goes on for about a paragraph, and then it says click to see more. And so I click to see more, and it's like 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs of some kind of, for lack of a better description, since I just skimmed it, fan fiction of how they wanted to add some characters to, I think, Skyrim, and like, fair enough. I don't know if there's maybe a troll post here, maybe this is copy pasta, or maybe this is a genuine idea that somebody is going to has just decided to put on my YouTube comments, thus making it harder for them to perhaps copyright or sales pitch that idea. I'm not really in a position in which I would ever make games or write stories for games, so somebody telling me their idea or their fan fiction doesn't really open me up for any kind of lawsuits if I was going to even read it. But I will be all honest, I just don't have time to read it, so apologies. So, long comments, more than a few sentences. In general, I will probably just leave and not read. So it's up there for posterity. If somebody else reads it and I guess comments that tell me that there's like something incredibly offensive or wrong with it, I guess you don't even have to tell me. If the comment had something inappropriate with it, like, flag it, I guess, but maybe don't flag it. Maybe tell me. Yeah, tell me don't flag it, because that might get my channel in trouble, the stupid way YouTube works. But I will say that proposing ideas are via comments is not a very effective way to do that. You probably should just make your own YouTube video if you want to propose an idea or fan fiction, or if you're just doing text, as this one seems to be just text, maybe you're probably better off just you're probably better off just like writing a fan fiction and posting it to like a forum. But yeah, I just don't have time to read those things. Sorry. Apologies to that person. And anybody who thought that it might be a good idea to do the same thing, I will have to say, in the exact same scenario, I'm just not going to have time to read it. But I definitely do appreciate comments. I don't know if the length of comments affect any of the engagement numbers in YouTube's secret algorithm. So, and I sometimes it is definitely better for people to contribute than to be afraid to contribute and just not bother to contribute. So I'm not trying to chastise anybody for putting a long fan fiction article or long comment on my videos. It's just probably not the best forum to promote your own idea. It's not like my YouTube videos get that many views anyways. Moving on. We have a game on Steam here called Card Battle Spirit Link. I was playing a card battle game on my cell phone. I kind of liked the idea of it, but then they updated it with even more ads, and you literally could not go any further past the first character set without paying money. This is $9.99, and it's English only. While I might like a couple of these thumbnails, the actual graphics here look pretty bad, and clearly just doesn't look like a card game that would catch on. Speaking of games I was playing on my cell phone, I was playing something that was kind of a clone of Princess Maker, a daughter raising simulator game, effectively. Again, on the cell phone version, full of ads, and kind of apparently impossible to win because I went through one instance or one gameplay and it was super long, and I managed, I thought I was pushing the daughter to be the princess, which is like the best ending usually, and I ended up with her literally turning into a ghost because she was overworked and seemingly killed herself due to me overworking her, which did not make any sense because the way you schedule it, it's 3 events per month, and the third event every month was always a twice the damage. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3. So yeah, every third activity was a rest activity of traveling. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. I just think the game was unbalanced. I had like major high stats in a lot of things, but that did get me wondering after playing that and just having such a boring, unsatisfactory experience. What would it feel like to actually cover the Princess Maker series or the spin-off, more modern game, Long Live the Queen, on Steam? And so I went on YouTube and looked at some people showing some gameplay of them, and I'm like, yeah, none of this would be interesting. It really wouldn't. So those are going to be games that probably are on my wish list, and I'd like to own them. Even their remakes don't really change enough to improve the experience. Plus, it seems like from one YouTube video I was watching, it doesn't seem like the translations are particularly good anyways. See. So Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any Princess Maker style daughter raising simulator style game is going to ever be on my channel. I would still be happy to own those games and support them, but they are super number based and strategy based to the point where you're effectively playing something like a Dungeons and Dragons games with just a very different stated goal than a standard Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Also, weirdly, Princess Maker 1 was never ported to PC. It was like a Commodore 64 game or something like that. And Princess Maker 3 loses the RPG gameplay of the second game, so it's effectively worse. But it is maybe a little bit more simplified and dumbed down. And it seems like the people that are re-releasing it don't even have the rights to Princess Maker 4, so that the whole series is quite a mess.
Dissenters are welcome to debate me in battle.
Let's see. Higher converted cost of mana. So, alright, let's try this. Exile this creature. And now we've got a better creature.
One must be willing to adapt.
And that revealed 3 cards that I don't think went into the graveyard. Seriously? I don't know if anything even has a higher converted mana cost than this. But this is the one that you're supposed to cycle anyways. Let's see.
Even Titans obey my commands.
Moving on, Yakuza Like a Dragon Steam database listing has been spotted according to TechRaptor. No big surprise there. Like I totally figured that the Yakuza series are all gonna come to Steam. Yeah, let's try and cover these news fairly quickly. Today is gonna be an opportunity to go short to make up for times when these streams tend not to go short. Game of Sutra has an article here. Unity has acquired the visual scripting solution called Bolt, which I've never heard of Bolt, but Unity acquiring more things does kind of make sense. Right, well. Remember, we just need to play red cards, but getting victories is a nice secondary goal. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. EA opts for digital EA Play live show instead of its usual E3-ish event. The EA events that played around the same time as E3 seemed to being changed. It was originally scheduled for June 9th through 11th, and now apparently it's June 11th. What is EA going to really talk about? That's a interesting thought, I suppose. This creature deals X damage, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated. Target creature can't block this turn. Equal to the number of lands you control. Do we want to mutate this on something? No, I don't think we do. Just want to put it on the field. Yeah. Well, see, the thing about Electronic Arts is they maybe are going to announce yet another Star Wars Battlefront game after they've kind of given up support of the current Battlefront. They're going to probably try to tease some other Star Wars game otherwise. And then it's just going to be a whole bunch of EA Sports games. It's going to be an attempt at football, attempt at basketball, and I guess no attempt at wrestling or soccer. Actually, there probably is a soccer game that they would want to promote. What does this do? Why can I not still play this? Man. Probably should. What is this? Whenever you cycle this, shuffle it into the library from your graveyard. If you cycled this monster 4 or more times, into the battlefield instead. So the general idea would be to cycle this a lot. And I really don't have a deck that makes sense to do. Yeah. We've kind of consistently had this as an issue in as far as the things that you could, as far as EA's announcements have gone. Man, I'm not making complete sentences today. Maybe I never really do, but yep. EA for at least the past 3 or 4 years has not had anything super interesting to announce other than Star Wars Fallen Order. And since today is May the 4th, we are getting a decent amount of Star Wars announcements. He just stole all my cards. Did I play enough red cards, or are we gonna have to play yet another doomed to fail red test deck? Yeah, we did. So we have a Ravnica Allegiance pack. It'll be questionable what we get once standard shifts as far as old packs. It feels like even now there are probably some expansions that they just are never going to give packs for. So if I am going to try and go back and try and have a complete collection as far as Magic Arena is concerned, that there probably would have to be the use of a lot of wild cards. More wild cards than it's probably worth to do. So that was like a whole page. Let's see, yeah, because there we just got Ravnica Allegiance. So the real question would be, historic wise, what have we not collected? Yeah, there's a massive amount of historic cards and expansions that we will just never get packs for those historic ones, or if we do get packs for historic expansions, that they're going to be extremely rare, to the point where the idea of getting all of these is not realistic. Whereas if I was just going to say I want to get all the standard cards that are standard right now, that is a shorter list by far. It's still a pretty long list. But my initial strategy was to only get, let's see, basically these cards, and that list is incredibly short. So we, at least for my initial strategy, we have almost a complete collection of cards, at least owning one of them there. If we lean back down to cards that we only have 2 or 1 or 3 copies of, then that makes the list a little bit longer, but still very manageable and doable. Just not quite completely doable with mythic wild cards. Okay, now we just need to attack 10 more creatures, and we need to work our way up the ranked. Tech Raptor has an article here. Latest Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order update adds a new game plus, new cosmetics, and more. So that really makes it feel like Fallen Order is about as good as it's ever going to be as far as a game worth playing. People were interested in this game when it first was announced, and it was getting hyped, and then it kind of got forgotten. I think a lack of enthusiasm of a new generation of people for Star Wars in general, due to how the movies were handled, not to jump into an opinionated argument here. I think undoubtedly most objective people can say there's been a lack of enthusiasm for Star Wars in the past while. And I would say, in fairness, that lack of enthusiasm probably has been around since episode 2 was released, not episode 7, because while there might have been some re-releases of episode 3, 4, or 5 after episode 1 happened that may have caught a little bit of attention, people really haven't been rabid fans of Star Wars since episode 1. Episode 1, before it came out, there was a lot of hype for that, and maybe even some excitement as it was coming out, but yeah. And that's hurt the video games and left me personally, here's where I put in my opinion, the only Star Wars game that has interested me was the non-canonical, now retconned Star Wars game of The Force Unleashed. And The Force Unleashed 2 wasn't that great. And video games wise, you're either playing Battlefront, which is just a generic first-person shooter in the Star Wars universe, or you're playing nothing at all, or you're playing old Star Wars games. So yeah, Jedi Fallen Order and EA game is one I want to play, but also one that I even kind of knew when it was first launching I want to play at a discounted price, and once they were done adding content to it, I don't know what Star Wars could really do to convince me to play or pay full price and play a Star Wars games at the very beginning, because it's kind of an opposite of a spoilerish game in the sense that you already kind of know what's going to happen, in the sense that there's no way they're going to drastically change the Star Wars universe. They can't even do that in the movies, really. It's always got to play to the same themes and same ideas. So no video game is going to be able to come in there and change canon or do anything interesting. And that was the one thing that The Force Unleashed really was able to do, is to say, hey, let's make something that feels like an alternate history take on it. in a weird way, I think Star Wars fans are going to start to become kind of like Doctor Who fans, in the sense that they more and more have the seasons of Doctor Who that they like, and then they're upset with the seasons after that because they changed their Doctor Who. And then there's spin-off books and audio tapes in Doctor Who's case, and there are spin-off books and audio tapes, audiobooks for Star Wars too. And I think the real hardcore, I loved A New Hope, or I loved The Empire Strikes Back. Those fans are, I think, gonna just kind of lock into a nostalgia only mode and not be willing to really embrace any of the new content. Let's see. Well, if you're gonna exile it, let's instead send it to the graveyard. And let's go ahead and take this one out.
Pray we never meet again.
Speaking of pop culture, new Rick and Morty happened. I'm not going to get into a full review of it, but I did find it slightly funny and interesting that all of the scenes that have been shown as a trailer for the new season of Rick and Morty are actually just cutaway jokes in this first episode, basically saying that they weren't going to show any scenes from any of the other episodes. Now, in reality, the reason for this is because they're clearly falling behind in animating things, and this is a continuous problem with Toonami and Cartoon Network, is that they just don't put enough people behind animating things. When you compare it to any random anime that is airing on Japanese TV, that there's almost never a delay, and the way they accomplish that is by overworking and underpaying the animators, sure, but at the very least they hire enough people to make sure they make those schedules, whereas I don't think schedules get really met in Toonami and Cartoon Network shows. I think schedules are secretly hidden so that people don't realize that they're not being met, but I'm fairly certain they are just not getting met at all. Yeah, I don't really have anything more I want to say about Rick and Morty other than that, though. Like, it's sometimes good, it's sometimes bad. It's fine. It's falling into a position much like Futurama, not Futurama, but Family Guy and The Simpsons boiled into. It's going to have enough staying power to continue to exist, but it's not going to be able to do breakout hits every single episode. And that's mostly because it never intended to have a direction. Thus, there's really nowhere it can go. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Valve has ended support for Steam VR on macOS, so they can focus on Windows and Linux, which is weird because like macOS is based on BSOD, I think, so it's basically close enough to Linux that it really shouldn't have been that big of an issue. I guess part of the problem though is that Apple is just too likely to change things. Now, Steam VR, I think, is not just complete removal of virtual reality or VR headset support of games that run on macOS. I think I think instead what it is more of a, I thought I saw a picture of it, but maybe I didn't. It's more of a just kind of big picture mode for VR, so that you can access the Steam store without taking off your VR headset, which is probably not super useful. Yeah. It says the platform allows users to purchase and play VR titles using a variety of hardware, including Vive, Rift, Windows Mixed Reality, and Valve's own indexed headset. Index headset. Choose blockers. And then sacrifice this guy. And then bring him back. If I can get Bolus Citadel onto the field, I probably can win. Next article, TechRaptor has an article. A fan-made Super Mario 64 PC port has been released. It supports 4K and much more. No more need for Nintendo 64 emulators. I think at that point, though, you are straight up, they'll just, apparently it's in the Unreal Engine, and maybe published by the actual Unreal YouTube channel. This is groundbreaking, certainly, in the sense that maybe all Nintendo 64 games and Nintendo games in general could just be run natively on PCs. Like that's an interesting idea, certainly. But it doesn't help you legally by any means whatsoever. You're now further away from legal protections because you're not emulating a legal copy of a game you already own. You're literally playing a whole different bit of code that is 100% copyright infringement of the entire Mario 64 game. So, yeah. Now, for people that don't care about that, which should probably include pretty much everybody, including Nintendo, that this is a great thing, but it's not going to go down that way. Japanese companies and copyright are way more litigious than that. So I would say people should probably go out there and download this, but if you are not afraid of getting in trouble with the law, but if you're trying to stream this, you'd still be in big trouble, and it doesn't really have a lot of relevancy. The one thing that it potentially would open the door up to is maybe it would teach Nintendo that games could be ported to the Unreal Engine somewhat easily. Apparently a whole bunch of Nintendo's source code for their like GameCube, N64, Wii U operating systems, things like that were leaked, so emulators theoretically would be a lot better, and potentially even porting the entire operating systems of those hardware devices to PC might even get better. So there is room that you might see Nintendo decide to embrace PCs. But on the other hand, almost certainly I would think that this is also just an argument that that Nintendo will be able to make to say that all PC players are just pirates, so they should never put Nintendo games on PCs. That has been kind of a prevailing attitude up until this point. There is a small activist investor group that we talked about that's trying to influence Nintendo, so maybe they'll influence them for the better, but I don't think much would happen there Frankly, that investor group has like 2% of Nintendo, and Nintendo, in a lot of different ways, it can't ever be proven, but I think it has some major support from the Yakuza, so it almost certainly would not be allowed to be controlled by some other organization or a Western activist investor group. And they have like 100 years of cash on hand, they said, as far as 100 years of operating cash, so they could do a share split or share buyback to combat a potential hostile takeover. Anyways, so yeah, I think it would be pretty silly to suspect or expect that a Japanese company is going to change its ways without being dragged through the mud, kicking and screaming first. Because if it's one thing Japanese people and Japanese companies are known for, it's being a little bit old-fashioned and headstrong and stubborn. And if I could throw in a bit of an editorialization on that thought, the Sero agency is going to open up again, but I imagine, got no Japanese games whatsoever released while the ratings board was not rating them. So, obviously, if all Japanese game developers just stopped making games because they were out of business, that would drastically affect video games in general. But we also have a situation where if Japan was just for a very long term shut down, or for some other reason Japanese companies couldn't sell their games in their native country but could sell them outside of Japan, I don't know if it's a guarantee that any of the Japanese companies would do that. Like, they have been so focused about their local sales that the idea of telling a Japanese company, no, there's money to be made in foreign countries, is a hard message for them to listen to, particularly if they're not making any money in their native country. We could, if there was a long-term like slowdown or lockdown or just depression in Japan, we could see a lot of Japanese game companies that are doing fine. Sony, Square Enix, probably not Nintendo, but maybe Sega. We can see a lot of those countries just opting to shut down. Koei Tecmo, Konami, like, I wouldn't be surprised on Konami's part, really. We could see a lot of those companies just opting to shut down instead of staying in business and just becoming a producer of foreign selling video games. There's kind of a national pride, for lack of a better term, I think, around it. Let's just do no blocks because I'm going to lose anyways. And just save ourselves some time. We will see if my theory is somewhat accurate with the KyoAni animation business, because that was the animation studio that was fire attacked for I don't think firebombed is the right phrase. An arsonist broke his way in there and started the building on fire, crazed arsonist, and they have now completely torn down the entire building because it was like most buildings in Japan, old and not built particularly sturdy. So they've completely torn it down, and they've said that they're not going to build a new building in that location. So that they said there might be a memorial because people actually were killed in that arson attack. there, but the locals of the area don't want a memorial built in that attack because uh, Japan is extremely conservative, and then in the sense that conservative means they don't want anything new to happen ever. So they don't really know, or they haven't at least said out loud what they're going to do with the land. They'll probably just sell it, and then probably some other building will get built there. And it will be questionable to see what the business of Keone and animation ever gets back to doing, if they get back to doing anything.
You've never seen anything like this.
Let's keep on playing. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth continues to get DLC. There's this new Revelations expansion that they were talking about. Did not mean to click the flag button. What this is, I guess, is a interesting admittance that they are not really going with the Legend of Bumbo anymore. That clearly that spin-off game did not sell or catch on to people's attention as much as Rebirth still catches people's attention. Which, yeah, that's believable. That's completely and totally believable. That they need, the creators of The Binding of Isaac need to secretly be working on yet another new game, and this time it probably needs to be completely unlike The Binding of Isaac. I think The Legend of Bumbo probably is a perfect example of what not to do with your next game after you have a majorly successful cult classic. Is not do the same thing, do something completely different. What I think it would be really funny is, since The Binding of Isaac is kind of this anti-theist theme, just anti-Christianity theme more than anything. So if they came back and they did something that was super clean, super cut, super family friendly, as the religious pseudo scientific organization Focus on the Family, which I think they changed their name now, that they call themselves something else that makes them sound like they're a scientific organization when they really aren't. But yeah, if they did something super clean, super family friendly, that would be very unexpected. Although, in all fairness, I don't know if the creators of The Binding of Isaac could pull that off without it sounding cynical or snide. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. Like, it would be really hard to do something like that and not sound like you're being sarcastic. And here. Next we have a game on Steam called Blast Rush Classic, which is a shoot 'em up game. I have no interest in those. $2.99, English, Japanese, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Which, that's a collection of Asian languages. How the Worm Has Turned, YouTube Gaming tweeted out this tweet 5 hours ago. Guess who's streaming exclusively on YouTube now? ? And that's PewDiePie. So they have to come crawling back and pretend like they care I guess this is YouTube gaming pretending like they're caring, not specifically the YouTube main thing. And here you have the first thing. Why does your streaming service always crash? I'm still having major problems with the YouTube app. Let's see. Why do my videos keep private? I didn't realize he was relevant anymore. From this person. Remember how this guy was universally hated by everyone over the age of 12 until he said the N-word, then a bunch of gamers just decided he was a hero. It's like, yep. Just a lot of stuff. A lot of heat by that post. Like, I don't know why you would enable comments. I guess they had to say something. I guess they had to say something if he is in some kind of exclusivity streaming deal. From PewDiePie's perspective, I don't think he could have particularly stayed streaming on Twitch for too much, because a lot of his content is calling out all the terrible things that the e-girls on Twitch do, as that is the part of the conversation. Certainly that he talks about on occasion. So, yeah. As far as gaming streamers on YouTube, it's still a weird situation. Like, we haven't gotten... A new generation hasn't been allowed to become the new popular people. So when I watch like Mumbo Jumbo doing a Minecraft Let's Play of Hermitcraft, he's still getting like the top 1 trending slot sometimes, or in the top 10 trending slot. And when I look at gaming, it still is just a bunch of Minecraft and Fortnite and Roblox streamers. There's really no room for improvement until the algorithm, particularly for game streamers, starts to promote new content creators. And they're gonna just have to take the risk that YouTube gaming in particular promotes a video game streamer that might be a little bit more offensive than what YouTube would like, or they're just going to be forever stuck with promoting the same personalities who are going to just constantly age out. And that's the other issue that's going to happen, is that PewDiePie is just going to get older and older and older, and he'll eventually age out of wanting to stream altogether. And PewDiePie is not in a position where he can promote new content creators. Most people wouldn't even accept his help if he offered it. So, yeah. It's kind of just a bad situation all the way around. Alright. I'm gonna attack with this one, because you can't do anything with that. And see how this works. Moving on, Fortnite has a May the 4th be with you outfits, so you can play as Rey, Kylo Ren, and Sith Trooper outfits in Fortnite, which I feel like that's probably it. And apparently they have some new skins, and I guess Fortnite is constantly putting new skins on it. I suppose PewDiePie could go to Mixler like Ninja did, and he would probably take a significant amount of his audience with him, but probably not enough for him. PewDiePie has that like vested interest in which Ignoring organizations like T-Series, PewDiePie is still the biggest individual YouTuber on the platform, and I think he just kind of has this need to maintain that, uh, whether he wants to maintain it or not. Like he really can't give up that title unless something else comes along to offer him, like if somebody could offer him something even greater than that. Like if somebody offered to let PewDiePie, for instance, have his own TV series or TV station, even radio station. Like if PewDiePie was going to do something like that and be like the next Howard Stern, he might take somebody up on that offer and stop streaming. But that's kind of it. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Reflections on Infections in Video Games. It's a feature article. So it's just talking about games that have infections in it. A game called Amy, a game called Scorch Hive, Resident Evil, Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter. This looks like an interesting game if it was remade. It's probably a lot of these like games that they tried to make that didn't really work, and a remake and re-release and might fix a lot of the problems. Plague Inc. is getting mentioned also. Yeah, I want to look up this Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter for the PlayStation 2. Yeah, there's probably hundreds if not thousands of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games out there that would prove themselves to be useful. And that was all the daily quests, so now we're just kind of looking for the 15 daily wins. We've got 3 of these, so we can do this. And that's going to pop up this. Let me ask this, if I do this real fast and then this real fast, can I do 2 in a row? No. So you have to wait for the animation. So yeah. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more mastery orbs before we can hit these and make any more progress forward, as it were. The way they make these symbols does kind of show how balanced some of the multicolored cards are. Or, no, it really doesn't, because frankly they're just giving you random skins on random cards, and there's basically a skin for every card that is in every expansion. So they can effectively make any image they want by just taking 30 skins out of a pool of, I would say, 100 to 150 skins. This is only slightly video game related in the sense that PCs and PC gaming is video game related, but Gigabyte, now going by Aorus for a lot of their brands, has the Z490 motherboard series, which is the new 10th generation Intel CPUs. I'm not going to go over everything here, but I will point out 2 things. These light colored PCI Express slots are theoretically supposed to support PCI Express version 4.0, but the chipset does not currently support that. So if you're gonna try and future-proof here for the higher PCI Express 4.0 connections, you might get screwed over in a couple of different ways, because this will be the first implementation of those new PCI Express slots. There will be no video cards that really implements that technology or uses that technology probably for a good 3 or 4 more years, and 3 or 4 years is almost a entire product cycle and lifetime. There's some of these gigabyte boards, I've been looking at them, don't support 2.5 gigabit gigabit Ethernet or 10 gigabit Ethernet, which very possibly might be more useful for you than PCI Express 4.0. And it is worth mentioning that in the rare case that you're trying to run a server like me and you need to plug in PCI Express cards that give you more SATA ports to plug in hard drives, a lot of these newer motherboards come with 2 connectors, and that's about it. So if you have any special internet card, even if you have 3, that's not very helpful. And that means you're going to have to buy like an 8-port instead of a 4-port adapter board for the SATA controllers. And a lot of times the trade-off here for these new boards is not even that you have more ports to plug in more SATA things on the motherboard on its internal chipset. Instead, it is you have 2 M2 slots to plug in a M2 SSD, which having 1 or 2 M2 slots is nice. Certainly, I wouldn't ever say don't get that, but it doesn't help if you're trying to set up a RAID array and use old hard drives and have large amounts of space. Man, I did not want to really attack with that, but whatever. It is also worth mentioning that it seems like, and I'm looking for feedback here if anybody wants to comment, it seems like the Ryzen 3rd generation 570 boards, I think there are X570 boards and the chipsets that work like that, might be the next better way to build a computer instead of using an Intel CPU. It's been a real long time since I've legitimately thought about building a computer with a non-Intel CPU, but yeah, I think the Ryzens have more core. I think the cores are faster. I don't think that there's a major issue between using NVIDIA video cards, because I already have the video card. I already have the 2080 RTX. I'm not buying yet another video card for that. But yeah, I'm thinking about building a new computer once computer parts begin to even somewhat feel like they're cheap enough to do that. And I'm thinking maybe we'll go with an AMD unless I get some major feedback. Let's see. What's funny is that we probably should not be going on these side conversations as much, but I don't hate it either. Like, if anything, me diversifying what I talk about a little bit doing these streams, one would hope that that would satisfy enough of a wanderlust mentally that I might have, so that I don't just become less motivated to play games. So I can focus on playing games and then talk about the other computer stuff and like anime stuff and stuff like that I like just when I'm streaming. You know, satisfy that itch in a sense. Attack with this, and this. Moving on, TechRaptor has a review for a game called Someday You'll Return, which seems full of fire. This looks kind of like a horror game where you actually talk to NPCs. Let's see what looks good so far, but apparently not. They gave it a 6.5. Someday Your Return has an interesting ideas that mash together in a bit of an odd way, and can be worth the experience if you don't mind a crummy story, bad horror stealth, and occasionally iffy puzzles. It blocked me, and I did not do the thing I needed to do. Darn it. Let's see. Well, guess we do this to put this back on the field. The pros of Someday You Return is beautiful environments, willing to try many new ideas, fun adventure game elements. The cons are iffy story with poor voice acting, pixel hunting puzzles, and bad stealth horror moments. Yeah, that's a shame, but I think really I just have so many games that it even trying really hard to put a game like that in the follow list and the wish list really just does not work. Like that, it's just not realistic. Next we have a game on Steam called Rise of the Fodorati, for lack of Italian pronunciation. I assume that's what it is. So it looks like it's a kind of RTS game, and it looks like it doesn't have much to offer in the sense that the screenshots aren't showing anything most of the time, and the graphics don't look good when it does show something. It's early access, $8.90, English only. That's easy enough to ignore. And I was not lying about not having a lot to say today, so we can already see the beginning of the end. That being said, I could have finished most of the news earlier if I hadn't gone on side conversations and side rants. And victories today. Yeah, I probably will play a little bit off screen, try to get that 15 victories, but also there's definitely room that I could be doing something different. I think I could be playing Uru instead. Let's see, let's change this back to Out for Blood and stop playing ranked for a while. Not that I think that's going to change much. TechRaptor has an article here. Team Force 2 update pays tribute to Rick May. I don't know who Rick May is. He was a voice actor who passed away. Okay. So they made like a little statue for him. And it seems like there's been no follow-up story on the source code that leaked from Valve, so I don't think that was as big a deal as people were trying to make it into. Gamatsu has an article. Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series, is coming to PlayStation VR this summer. All 3 episodes due out simultaneously on console. Has it been released on anything else before this point? Seems like no. Nor does it seem like it's going to come out on anything else. I don't know how much of an experience you really are going to have playing either as Darth Vader or against Darth Vader in VR. But it does kind of show that the people who are still into Star Wars want to see Darth Vader, not Kylo Ren or anybody else. There also was a leak of a new PlayStation VR controller with finger tracking. If that actually is the thing that comes out, and that is how they are going to update their VR connections, that with the PlayStation 5, that would be interesting. Certainly, that there needs to be a whole new generation of VR equipment for the next PlayStation, and I don't think they're going to burn too many people's bridges if they did release a new version of the VR setup for the next PlayStation, since not too many people adopted it anyways. They may even have like early on dual support for both VR headsets, but and honestly, it's more about changing the controllers than it is the VR headset. Most people probably won't care about a slightly lower quality visual or audio experience. It's the interface that's still the stumbling block as far as VR is concerned. Moving on, Gematsu has the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga key art. So here's like a cover art, and then there was another banner that Telltale Games tweeted out, and they were happy. They said they were happy it didn't leak out. The art and images didn't leak out, but that doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, the Skywalker Saga does sound interesting as a potential complete remake of the Lego Star Wars game, although it also is kind of the admits that they've run out of things to license and make Star Wars Lego games out of. So it is also, in a weird way, the beginning of the end for Lego games. And I doubt we'll get a Lego Movie 3. Maybe we'll get a 3, but I doubt we'd get a 4, even if we did get a 3. So that's going to be a problem. They could try to make a hidden side Lego Movie, but there's also a question about any movies going to theaters anytime soon. And I don't feel like the hidden side Lego series has succeeded in catching anybody's attention. And they're trying to do a new style of ninja things with the Monkey King series. So that is to, I guess, try and replace Ninjago for a new generation. And maybe that'll get a lot of Asians to go to theaters, but I don't see any Asians going to movie theaters either, so it would be a bit of a hard justification for me to play a Lego Monkey King game. I'd still do it, but almost certainly I think it has a high chance of being a very bad quality game. Because I just don't imagine that they'll put a lot of effort into it. If the Nintendo Lego new partnership grows, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a somehow Lego Nintendo game that is released, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is for the Switch only and doesn't actually allow for a PC port or any other console port. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Billy Mitchell is taking the Donkey Kong cheating case to court. He's almost certainly going to fail. Let's see. He threatened to take them to court for defamation, and I guess that's what he's done, since he's taking them to court for defamation. Although this might really just be a case of Billy Mitchell wanted more attention, or finally got enough money to take him to court. Like, winning a defamation case in the United States is almost impossible. If he does win and tries to get any kind of judgment against Twin Galaxies, I imagine Twin Galaxies doesn't have any real money anyways. So even if he got a like $1 billion settlement or something, or not a settlement, but a $1 billion decision that he was defamed, I don't think you'd see any of that actually happen. And I don't think that changes too many people's opinion, honestly. Like, if he wins the case, I don't think people are going to say, oh, well, I guess he didn't cheat. People are set very solid in their opinion, and I think most people are set in a solid opinion that he did cheat. So, yeah, I don't think that it's going to be anything like that. I don't think it'd change anybody's opinion. It'll be a lot like the O.J. Simpson's case, where people will be very set in their opinion, whether they think he did it or not, and the outcome of the court case itself didn't really change anybody's opinion. Moving on, we have a Gematsu article. Umahari Kawase Bazooka is coming to the West on May 28th for PC and July for the PS4 and Switch. So this is another spin-off game of the Umahari Kawase series. This girl who keeps aging in most of the games. It's so weird. If Mario aged in every game he was in, then he would be in his 70s by now, I imagine. This is a Smash Brothers type game. So, yeah. I don't think that this potentially could be a PC competitor to Smash Brothers, but it'd be interesting if it was. Another great example of just how, if some of these Nintendo games came to PC, they would dominate. Yeah, if Nintendo just got most of their games to run on cell phones, they would completely dominate cell phone game listing video games in particular, because man, cell phone video games are terrible. Just not even worth trying. I've gone through, over the past couple of weeks of being bored and stuck in bed, I've gone through at least a dozen, and every single one is just awful. Just full of microtransactions. Totally not fun. Not good experiences. And the one game that I do like on my cell phone is still full of microtransactions. Destiny Child is still chugging along, and it's very playable without spending any money, but it does every single day throw a bunch of ads in front of you to buy more things from their in-game store. And go ahead and hit that too. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. The Lord of the Rings Golem has its first screenshots. This is a little bit of a weird way to depict Golem, but it's new, it's different, and it's not completely offensive. I imagine there's some more screenshots here, but I'm not going to waste the time to go through them. I assume that you are going to be playing as Golem in that game, and I kind of question how much of a game you can really get out of that. The one good Lord of the Rings game that I've played most recently was the Shadow of Mordor game, which introduced a whole new character and just was a generic excuse to fight and kill a bunch of orcs. So it was very light on the Lord of the Rings elements. Playing as Golem, you're not really going to be capable of swinging swords and killing a bunch of orcs. You're going to have to hide and run and rely on trickery, which is a different experience, certainly. Moving on, Gematsu has this article. We talked about it earlier. Japan Games Rating Board 0 to reopen on May 7th. So we'll start maybe seeing a few more games getting rated that might affect the release of Japanese games. The thing that is going to happen there is we're going to maybe see a gap. Maybe we will never see that gap of a few games that were in development that should have been released in the next couple of weeks to 6 months, and we won't and then there will be like a small gap, and then games will get released again. But it's very possible you won't see any of that, because it is also very possible that most game publishers all around the world are just not going to publish games right now, because the odds of them selling aren't very high. Or at least that's what they think. And we'll just have to see if the world gets back to doing its old things and acting the way it used to, or if we are still headed for a long haul as far as having to socially isolate or re-social isolate and lock down a second or third time. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. There is a report that work-from-home issues are to blame due to the Nintendo axing the June Direct. I think they said that straight out, but if that wasn't said straight out, okay, that's totally believable. It is 100% believable that that Nintendo is just an old-fashioned company that doesn't know how to have employees work from home at all. Next we have a game on Steam here called Yardlings, and this game looks fine, but it has a problem. It's this little sock and the number 8 here, because this is from Sockpo Collective, who flooded the Steam database with games, little cheap games being sold, to create a bundle here for $130.72. This is English only. This is totally not going to make it to the following list, because this developer slash publisher is kind of effectively blacklisted. They are trying to manipulate the Steam store page and the Steam storefront to trick people into buying cheap games instead of making just like one good game. This, and this. Next we have a game on Steam called Awaken the Time, which looks like it's either an asset flip attempt at Dark Souls, a Dark Souls clone, or there's an actual game here. And it's just a little rough because it's early access. This is $19.99, English with full audio. I'll put it on the follow list and we'll see what reviews say. But yeah. I saw a video talking about how Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is like the only good Dark Souls game, because it gets rid of a lot of the complexity and a lot of the ridiculous, unfair elements that are in Demon Souls, Dark Souls games, and Bloodborne games. It's an interesting idea, and certainly as a content creator, it would be interesting enough for me to jump just to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and say, alright, I enjoy this game, I'll go back and play Demon Souls, Dark Souls after that. I think I did play one of the Dark Souls games anyways and didn't get to the end, so I've already known that I couldn't make it to the end, or lost interest at least. So it would be Sekiro Shadows Die Twice would be the perfect example of a game to play to see if I wanted to go deeper down that pathway, or if it was just going to be too annoying to me, and I shouldn't try these super difficult action positioning games. Next, we have a game on Steam called Gym Master, which looks like it is a match the color game or some kind of strategy game. I can't even tell. Whatever it is, it looks unintuitive and generic and thus boring. It's discounted to $2.24, English only. Not gonna bother to put that on the follow list either. And we have maybe 10 more things to talk about, and then that's going to be it. I did curate a lot of games, so that helped. I saw a lot of games that were just not worth mentioning. Where we have a game here called Morhoon Kart, which maybe it's supposed to be moron spelled funny. It looks like a Mario Kart clone. Doesn't look terrible though. $2.99 discounted English and German. I'll put it on the follow list until I find an actual good Mario Kart clone on Steam. Like, there definitely are some styles of games out there that if I just found one good version of it, I would go through my wish list and my follow list and just remove all the other ones. Because yeah, there's definitely some desperation in trying to find a good Mario Kart clone or good several other kinds of games. A good arcade simulator, skee ball simulator type game. This is another one that comes to mind. Next, we have a game on Steam called Good Morning World, which is tagged as violent and surreal. It looks like it's probably a Chinese adventure visual novel type game. Seeing literally no text. The animation here looks terrible. It's free and it's English and Russian, so apologies to the Chinese. This is a low effort Russian game by the languages. You tend to get slightly more Russian troll games and then just low effort bad quality Chinese games. Next we have a game on Steam called Gangsta Underground The Poker, which might be a VR poker game playing with gangsters. That's an interesting idea, certainly. It does give you a set of people who would tell you stories and talk to you, but I don't know if gangsters really sit around talking about their hits and confessing their crimes so much. So I don't know if that feels realistic, or if people would even know if it feels realistic. But it does make a little bit more sense than the Telltale poker games where they just brought in a bunch of random animated characters and had them each tell random stories, and regardless of whether the stories even really made sense or related to the event of playing poker. So this poker game is free to play, single player, VR. Says it has unique characters, English only. Yeah, I'll put this on the follow list. It does sound slightly interesting. Although, that concept, I think you spin it better if it was just a group of college kids playing poker, or yeah, because that you couldn't be like co-workers or a group of friends just playing poker, because those people would already know pretty much everything about each other. But if there was a case where it was just a group of college kids, their first week of college, all playing poker together, each telling their backstories, each being able to tell an intriguing and interesting story, that opens you up to tell a lot more varied stories than a bunch of gangsters talking to you while you're playing poker. Because almost all the gangster stories are going to end up with some kind of crime being committed, and it's going to be highly negative. And then I suppose it is pretty debatable whether you want to hear people talking when you're playing poker or not. Most of the professional poker players mostly sit in silence and hate the one chatterbox that tries to put people on tilt often by talking. So that is another thing to consider. Next we have a game on Steam called Mech Era, which looks like it's just some asset flips of vehicles. This one screenshot looks interesting, but then you get down to this, which doesn't really connect, or this, or this, or this, and then you see this, which makes it look like a Chinese mobile game, and that's weird. This is free to play, and it's English and Chinese, so yeah. Almost certainly is a Chinese mobile game. Tech Raptor has an article, Doom Eternal soundtrack controversy addressed by id Software. Let's see what they said. Some have suggested that we've been careless with or disrespectful of the game music. Others have speculated that Mick wasn't given the time to create or creative freedom to deliver something different or better. The fact is, none of this is true, end quote. Alright, so there's your quote in this entire article. Seek out the article if you want more details. But apparently it is a just blanket denial that it did anything untoward in the development of the soundtrack. Still feels like a very weird story. I've never really heard people complain about a soundtrack for a video game before, so the sound in the game itself must be really intriguing, at least, to make people so interested in buying the soundtrack. TechRaptor has an article here. Frontier Developments announces a real-time strategy Warhammer games. Exclusive real-time strategy Warhammer Age of Sigmar writes. Okay. So, another developer is making another Warhammer game. Feels like there's about a dozen developers who have the rights to make some kind of Warhammer game. Let's see. Komatsu has an article, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Zangetsu and Randomizer update launches May 7th for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, late May to early June for the Switch. You can now play through the game once again, this time as Zangetsu. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Yeah, I was thinking of Blood Rain for a brief second there. It's nice that Bloodstained is getting these updates, but it really does put Bloodstained as yet another game that I probably only want to play once they're done. Once they're done just adding content to it and updating it. Let's see. Here. And here. And then that. And still lost. Oh well. Well, that's going to be the last game for today. and we'll just burn through the rest of this. 3 victories. Yeah, we really are just getting worse and worse with Magic. Just victories are getting harder and harder. Jack Raptor has an article. Indivisible DLC Razmis Challenge launches this week. Another game that for 40 levels of tough platforming. Yeah. Another game that I really would just like to see a complete collection for. And I guess that's part of the thing, is that I've been enjoying the ability to simply buy the complete collections of games, and now as I want to move on to newer games, the complete collections are taking a little bit longer than I would like to come out. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Summer Game Fest is a new, quote, all digital consumer showcase for the lockdown era. This is from Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards. They've now spread it out into like a very long, I think it's a month long to 4 months long event. Yeah, May to August of 2020. They're just calling it a huge thing. Which, in a weird way, it seems like they're gonna just try to boil down the Games Awards into something like a YouTube channel that just constantly updates when there's new news, instead of being an annualized event. But I imagine they'll lose some prestige there, and at a certain point the Game Awards feel like they're just going to dangerously become a mainstream video game review channel, in which like most mainstream video game reviewer channels are just designed to promote video games instead of actually giving consumer advice or criticism. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Gun Chain, which is a VR version of Zumba, which is a weird combination for sure of 2 games, and it really doesn't make sense at all. I don't know why you'd want to play Zumba with an actual gun in your hand from different angles and from in a VR 3D perspective. It's $11.99. It's English full audio. Zumba, it would be way, way better from a top-down perspective. So, like, I could see maybe if you were playing like a Bayonetta game and there was a mini game where you had to match colors and shoot really fast, then maybe something like that would make sense. But that can't be the main gameplay mechanic. That's not going to work. Gamma Sutra has the same article. We've already covered this. Indivisible publisher 505 Games says the release tool mishap caused the surprise launch of Indivisible on the Switch, with it being the wrong version too. Or version also. Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for Adult Swim Games. They need a senior brand manager. I think we talked about that also. Yeah, and I fully agree with that. If anything, I would argue that the Adult Swim games elements are even in a better position than Adult Swim itself is, because the games aren't really that bad. And I'll just show the title here, just for YouTube family friendliness. This TechRaptor is promoting another Nutaku game. College Life pre-registration brings sexy city building to Nutaku. So here's about as much as I feel safe to show, even though it's really not showing any actual skin. There's implied nudity in it. TechRaptor had the article, Star Wars Battlefront Steam multiplayer has returned. I think this was a Games for Windows Live issue. If not, then it's just a weird patch that they were working on. It was a GameSpy issue, not Games for Windows Live. Yeah. They try, I think, right before May the 4th to make sure all the Star Wars games still play and are good, because obviously people are going to want to buy them. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if there actually is a decent sale every year on Steam to buy a more old Star Wars games. TechRaptor has a review for Predator Hunting Grounds. What I've heard is that this game is just alright, but asynchronous gameplay where you're unlikely to actually be able to play as the Predator, so you're going to end up having to play as the humans, and it's not going to be that interesting for most times you play it. TechRaptor gives it a 7.0. When it wants to imitate the 1987 movie, Predator Hunting Grounds is a lot of fun, but it doesn't really have anything past that. Cons are limited game modes and maps, multiplayer imbalances, and it doesn't expand past the source material. Pros are it looks and feels like the movie, and I think that's the first movie more than the second. Solid stealth action gameplay and a fair, rewarding progression system. And I guess it is worth mentioning that there are more than 2 Predator movies, but anything after the first 2 aren't even worth really considering talking about. See, next we have a game on Steam called Type Up, which looks like it's just a typing game, probably a Chinese typing game if I was to guess, with an asset flip anime girl. $4.99, English only. Nothing there worth mentioning. Let's see. Gamatsu for the smartphone has a Muv-Love Project Immortal launching in 2021 with a short gameplay trailer. This, I suspect, is a mecha anime game from the looks of it. Yeah. Boy, does that playing really choppy. And I don't think that's my internet or anything. I just think it's being choppy. Yeah. It's hard to have any real excitement about it's hard to have any excitement about cell phone games, even things that look like they might be AAA style cell phone games are from publishers and developers of AAA games, because they just have yet to prove themselves as being quality. I've yet to see any quality cell phone game at all from, with the one exception of Destiny Child, which I hate to have to keep shilling that, and I'm not intentionally shilling it, but it literally is the only thing I've found that's even slightly interesting. And being an adult-oriented game, it has a niche following in the first place. There's this article here. Nighthawks is a vampiric adventure RPG set to release in 2021 for the PC. So there seems like there's going to be an uptick in vampire games if they all come out around the same time in the next year or two. But we'll just have to see how many of them are really well received. I don't know if there's going to really even be much of a fandom around vampire games at that point, like after Twilight and such being an issue. See, and apparently I had some leftover things, so I don't think I even have anything more to talk about. Borderlands 3 is kind of promoting Borderlands 2 because the Borderlands Legacy Collection is coming out on the Switch. So, yeah. There is a bit of a feeling there that they've somewhat given up on promoting Borderlands 3. And then that brings me to the Humble button, the Humble bundle. Let's see. Looks like it's a Walking Dead comics bundle, which seems to happen fairly often. The Square Enix Collective bundle is about to end. Yeah, so there's no new games bundle at all. And then that brings me back to Twitter, and I bet in the 2 or 3 hours that we'll back to Twitter to see some new issues. Gamma Sutra has an article here. After deadline issues for Doom Eternal's original soundtrack, a new composer will score its DLC. So apparently the DLC will sound differently. What else? I think a lot of stuff, because it's May the 4th, it's just so going to be centered around Star Wars that might be slowing down some of the announcements too. Tripwire Interactive is hiring a gameplay engineer. I'm just going to read those articles out loud instead of leaving them open for Wednesday. Wednesday we should do a draft, I imagine. Let's see. Mountain Blade Bannerlord bans allegedly given for violating Chinese law. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. Magic is doing yet another secret layer drop. Yeah, you're pretty much a sucker if you're buying a secret layer in most scenarios. They're so unworth the value. ScumVM is still going to be doing the Summer of Code thing, which I think was always a remote activity anyway, so I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. Let's see if there's anything else new to say. Susan Wojcicki was interviewed by a person named Hank Green, who's probably a YouTuber that I just don't recognize. Again, kind of doing a job, but kind of also promoting herself more, trying to make herself a celebrity. She does seem like she's constantly trying to rub elbows with celebrities, and instead of just doing a job. I wouldn't be super upset if Susan Wojcicki kind of never took interviews and just got down to the business of running business. Alright, well, 12 victories are needed today, at least 7, and we didn't accomplish too much, but we did get the daily quest done, and we didn't have a lot of news to cover, so we were able to get rid of every bit of news. That's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.